me officially welcome Christine Feehan back to Fresh Fiction Book Club. So glad that you're able to join us tonight, Christine.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it last time, although we had a horrific storm going on and we were on a generator at the time. So it was really difficult to hear anything. And that was one of the things that before we really get started, there was a young lady who asked a question and I kept trying to hear what she was saying and I couldn't. She was asking about Dark Celebration and if I would ever do another book like that. And then she asked me something else and I had to repeat the question. I couldn't hear what she was saying. I didn't get her name. I went on YouTube to try to get her name.
Still no, huh?
I felt so bad, but it was awful. The storm was awful and we kept cutting in and out and I could not hear her.
Well, so, I know from last time we talked, the Dark Celebration is such a favorite of so many of your fans. And I know people were asking if you were ever going to do something perhaps similar to that, either again within the Dark series or maybe something similar with any of your other series.
She asked that question, but then she followed it up with a different question. And it actually really got me. You know, people always say, where do you get your ideas? Where do you get your ideas? And then after she asked me that for like 3 days or 4 days, I started thinking about some things. So I actually was going to say to her, hey, you know, you actually gave me some really cool ideas, but I could not find her. So if you're out there, if you're here, you gave me some really cool ideas, even though I couldn't answer your question because I could not hear everything. It was a terrible storm that night.
Yeah. I have 2 different angles I want to go with that because we just kind of jumped in with her. So with the ideas, so when you get ideas like that from talking with other people or just in going about life, what do you then do with them? I mean, do you write them down in a journal of, oh, this is a great idea and I need to save it for a future novel so I don't forget? I mean, how do you keep track of some of those things?
You know, I'd like to say that I wrote things down, but I don't. You know, I've always been somebody who has stories in my head, like they just seem to line up in my head. And then as I'm writing other stories, those stories start developing and they sort of stack up in line and they kind of know their place. If one of them starts to get out of hand, I like give it a little lecture and say, get back in line. And over the years, I've done it so much that they kind of do that. You know, they get back where they're supposed to be. So yeah, I don't, if I start writing something down, it can take over really fast. And I can't afford that to happen. You know, a lot of people, new authors will say to me, well, I started writing this, but then this idea came to me and I started writing it and it was better than this one. But then see, that keeps happening to them because you always get to a place in a story where it gets really hard and something else seems so much better. So for me, I can't fall into that trap. So I just learned to tell those voices to behave.
Well, and I would think it's probably safe to say you've got a lot of voices going on in your head with so many different books and so many different series.
Yes.
And you just kind of say, hey, just wait your turn.
Yes.
Just not now.
Yes, I do. And I concentrate just solely in that world. I immerse myself in whatever world I'm writing in. Right now, I'm in the leopard world, and I just finished a dark book, and I was totally in that world. And then when I got out of it, I'm in the leopard world, And when they try to pull me back into the dark, Christine, we need this from you and we need this from you. And I'm like, get away from me. I'm over here now.
Do you have other tips and tricks to get you into the mindset for those particular worlds?
I wish I could say that, but my mind is so, I immerse myself so deeply into it. I'm already, when I'm finishing up that one book, my mind is already, I'm already thinking up. I know my characters for the next book, and I know them very, very well because I've been thinking of them for a long time. And I'm, I know exactly what's going to happen in some certain key scenes. And I'm really excited to write about them, and I can't wait. And so that makes it really hard if somebody wants me to go back, like my editor. I'm like, oh,
well, I was going to ask about the editing. It's like, sorry, it's part of the process, right?
Yeah. And they're like, okay, we need this by May 8th. Okay, we need the second one by May 16th. And I'm like, oh my God, will you leave me alone? I'm not always really nice. They're like, oh God, we have to bug her again.
This has been an act all these years. Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes I'm so irritable that my kids used to say to me, we just go right, Mom? Because they know that's what I want to do.
But now Brian works with you, or well, he writing with you at the same time.
We have
a lot,
an
right?
office. He has one side where he writes, and I have one side where I write. And sometimes he irritates the crap out of me because I will not take phone calls. Like, don't call me. I have what I call the dragon at the gate, and they stop unless it's an emergency. Sometimes I'll take one of my grandkids' phone calls, but not my kids. Like, don't talk to me. But he will, he has a little boy.
Yeah.
So he will take a phone call, and I'm like, get out of the office. Now, if it was his little boy, it would be okay, but it's not. It's always like a teacher or the mother, like, get out.
Yeah. Get out of the space. Come on.
Yeah. Because when you're in a scene, you can't, people think it's really easy, but it's not, because once you start a scene, if you're taken away from that scene, you can lose the whole thing. And that's not that's not good.
How long do you write during the day?
Honestly, I can write as long as I write 8 hours for sure. Then I take a break. And if I'm really obsessive about it, I can go back to it and write another 4 or 5 hours easily.
So with that, I mean, difficult to find that stopping point?
Yeah, if I get really crazy, I can do that easily. Sometimes I get up in the middle of the night and and I'm like, okay. And my poor dogs, they're like, oh, for God's sake, she's doing it again. She's in the office. And they follow me in, and they throw themselves on the floor like, like, you don't have to follow me into the office, but they do.
Oh, get real. I know you love those dogs.
I do. It's true. I do.
Just like the grandkids, you don't really mind those interruptions from them.
No.
Well, one thing, because we didn't talk about it as much last time when you visited us, but with Ghostly Game, what was the inspiration behind this entire series?
The series?
Yes, going back all the way to the beginning of the series. Yeah. Especially for some of our friends that aren't as familiar with this.
The thing about this particular series is I have a lot of people in my family that served in the military. And both men and women. And then we had a lot of friends, and I also have always been interested in psychic abilities and research because in every country, if you actually research it, every country has done psychic experiments. And I found that absolutely fascinating. And then the more I started doing actual research for the various characters, for instance, lightning, when I did lightning game, 90% of that was true. And to me, it's fascinating to find out all these things. I've always enjoyed learning things. So toxic game, most of that was true. And when I find these things out, it's amazing to me to be able to write about something that's true and fit it into something that, even though it's called paranormal, it's actually quite true. The plant thing, I mean, my gosh, if you start reading about it, it's pretty darn true. They communicate, they scream when you cut them. A plant does. It's just, they communicate with each other all the time. And all that about, Middlemas Dread, that was all true. So finding these things out fascinate me, and putting them together with military, when you find out that every country has done psychic experiments, that was all fascinating to me. So how could I not write about it?
And is it that research element and that constant learning which helps you keep it fresh? Because this is, what was it, number 19 in the series? Right?
Yes.
Quickly checking my notes. Yes, number 19.
You
have long running series. And
well, I do try to keep every single one of them fresh. That's important to me. And yes, I think the research is a big part of it, because I try to have the whatever I'm writing about is also something that's pertinent to us as people. All of us, I grew up in a huge family, huge, and I've been around children all my life. And part of the thing about Ghostly Game is that what happened to her as a child and what happened to him, no matter what they did in their life, it affected them as adults, as it does every single one of us. A person can do all these things in their life and still look at themselves in the mirror and not see themselves as other people see them. And I think that's important for all of us to realize, that we look at ourselves and we don't see somebody beautiful or somebody that has gone around and helped all these people. We see what we heard when we were children. And that, to me, is something that every time I write a book, I try to focus on what do we as people, what are lessons that are good lessons for us all, to learn. And women power, empowering women and friendships. And some people don't have family, blood relation. I'm lucky. I have 10 sisters and 3 brothers, and we all love each other and we see each other. And I have lots of children, and I love them dearly. And fortunately, they love me. That's not always the case for other people. And but I want people to know they can have family that maybe are not blood relationships. We have a lot of adoptions in our family. And if people say, which ones are adopted? Throughout our family, we're like, we don't know.
Yeah.
And they're all the same. We love them all the same. And brothers and sisters say the same thing, you know. It's that's just the way our family is. And they were all brought up that way. And I try to express that to people. If you get knocked down, everybody gets knocked down. Every single person makes mistakes. Everybody does. And that's something that I try to convey in the book. You know, people have terrible things happen to them in life, but you stand back up.
Mhm. And I think it's those connections and how things resonate that constantly pulls the readers in, right? Because people sometimes say, oh, but it's paranormal and that's not realistic. It's like, well, okay, if you say so. But it's all those other connections that really bring it home to people, right? And keep pulling people back, I think. Because I've been reading you since the 90s. So it's been a while, Christine.
Well, thank you. And I try to have it be a touch of paranormal and then most of it true. That's really what I try to do, you know. And a lot of people, when they read something, they think it's very paranormal. I mean, obviously vampires, but if you look at all the legends around the world, again, nearly every single country has legends of vampires. And then you go, that's really interesting. Where did that come from? You know, I constantly question these things, like, where did all of this come from every single country, when there wasn't communication between them, and yet they have these same beliefs. It's really interesting to me. I can't help but always want to learn more. And I hope I never, ever give that up. I hope that I always want to learn more.
I mean, and with that being a common theme, but also having written so many books and for a good bit of time, how have you seen your writing style change from when you were first releasing some of your dark series to all the books that you're writing now?
Well, I certainly hope so. I strive to get better all the time. I mean, I really work at it. Like sometimes I'll go, oh my gosh, I really need to work on my villains. They're not three-dimensional. And then I really, really, really work at it. I'll read somebody's book and start crying over a scene. I might not. I remember reading this one book and I didn't love her hero at all. I didn't feel that he redeemed himself. The heroine was so wonderful, but she wrote maybe 3 super emotional scenes that I just cried. And I've gone back and reread those scenes, I don't know how many times, and tried to figure out, how did she put those words together? Like, did she lead up to them? What did she say to make this so beautiful? These scenes in this book. I mean, it's amazing to me. Every writer out there has, I love words, I do, and the impact that they can make on a person. And you can learn so much from them, you know. Now, I will admit that I have to read a lot of heavy stuff, you know, like especially with Torpedo Inc., I have to read a lot of case files and stuff. So I've been really reading, well, I've always loved historicals. Everybody knows that. I cannot write them at all. I am the worst. Westerns and historicals, I cannot write, but I read them. But I've been reading a lot of rom-coms lately just to make me laugh. And, you know, it's fun to read things that you wouldn't normally write. And I know that they're writing to make you laugh, but you find these little gems, the way they put something together, the words that they come up with, and I'll just read them and think, wow, look at how they put those words together. And that's when I am writing something, I really try hard to improve every single book. Try to make something better every book, something. Now, I'm not the best of humor. I know that, but I remember with Dark Celebration, I told Cindy, okay, now this book is going to be so funny. And then I called her up. Cindy, it kind of took a little bit of a dark turn. And she goes, oh, what a shocker, Christine. Apparently I have a dark side.
What a thought, huh?
Yeah. Once my daughter said to me, Mom, I didn't have a normal childhood. I think maybe I need some counseling. I'm like, just because we discuss murder all the time? I don't know. Doesn't everybody?
Common discussion topic with our book club too. I mean, the murder, how to dispose of bodies. I mean,
right.
The whole
Because you do
gamut,
have
right?
to be able to dispose of the body, right?
Because it's not that we would actually commit the murder, but if we just happen to stumble upon a body, we want to make sure we know all of our options, right?
Right. Mhm.
And normally during the Fresh Fiction Facts, I ask, what's something that would take somebody out of the story thinking it's something usually negative? Well, when you're reading the rom-coms or other novels, and you, like you said, you come across something where, oh wow, that's a really good way that they wrote this scene, or something else from the craft. I mean, does that also take you out of the story where you start kind of analyzing the craft portion of it, or can you still stay in the story as you're reading it and kind of come back to the craft later?
I usually come back to it. What will take me out of a story is if I know something really well. And I think anybody's like this. I remember reading, I'm well versed in martial arts, and I remember reading something very ridiculous one time where the heroine had broken ribs, and she goes out and fights this guy who was quite a bit bigger than her. Well, trust me, I've had broken ribs. You don't go out and fight somebody when you have broken ribs. You're on the ground going, wheezing away. It doesn't quite work that way. So that was a little bit much for me. But, I suppose you can suspend belief if you have never had that experience.
Okay. Well, with that, let's flip over and see if we can still catch a couple of our Fresh Fiction Facts, okay?
Mm-hmm.
These are meant to be short, quick questions, kind of off the top of your head.
Okay.
And the challenge is going to be to come up with some that you haven't answered before, Christine. That's my problem now.
Okay.
If you could be a heroine in any of your series, which series would you want to jump into?
I probably would do it with my assassins, riding the shadows, the shadow riders.
Who would you want to be stuck in an elevator with?
I probably would want to be stuck in an elevator with Zacharias.
What is your favorite writing fuel?
Carrots.
Carrots? Okay, well, that's a new one. Okay. Pre-cut carrots? Or do you just,
Little tiny
raw,
baby ones.
little tiny baby ones?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
the skinny ones.
And do you need dip with it, or are you just eating them
Nope.
plain?
Just plain.
Okay. The things that take me off onto tangents, like, okay, go figure. What is your favorite one-hit wonder, be it music, movie, book?
Probably if it was a movie, it would be Last of the Mohicans.
Love that one. And all the music out of that, oh, just instantly gets you into, oh, yes.
Everything about it.
Yep. That was one of my mom's favorites. She loved the soundtrack and would just play it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And Daniel Day-Lewis isn't too bad either. So
No, not too bad. I loved the book, and I was pretty impressed with the movie. So,
what is something that you own a ridiculous amount of?
Armani's.
Ooh. What is something that is a luxury item, but to you is an absolute necessity?
A luxury item that's an absolute necessity. The only thing I could think of is maybe my teapots.
Did your dog?
Yeah, okay. My dog. She says my dog.
We call it your car.
We do call it my car. I have one dog that when she was 6 months old, I had her spayed, and she was allergic to the anesthesia, and it knocked out her kidneys. And let me tell you, she is the most expensive dog on the planet. My financial advisor said, you need to get rid of this dog.
Oh.
And so the truck that I was going to get from my place that I needed to go around and get wood and stuff, nope. Like every
car.
Yeah. So I tell her all the time, well, I'm going to hook you up to a cart and you can carry my guests around. You know, she's the car. And yeah, like she is so expensive. It's unbelievable, but there's no way I would ever get rid of her.
So pets are necessities. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. She's my luxury item.
What is one genre that you would be perfectly okay in never reading ever again?
Or yeah,
Okay.
I have too vivid of an imagination.
Mhm.
Like I can picture it so easily, and it's just like I can't do it.
What is one movie that everyone else just pans and thinks is crazy and absolutely horrible that you could watch over and over and over again?
Oh my gosh. I am so not going to tell you. That is so bad.
Well, let me spin it then. What is your most dog-eared book? The book that you read over and over again.
Gift of Gold.
Okay. And since we're almost at the top of the hour, the most important question actually is, what is the best way for our readers to keep in touch with you and find out what's coming next?
Well, certainly they can join my community and go to my wall, because I am giving out information there all the time. They can email me because I will answer emails every time. That's the one thing I do is answer my email.
Your Facebook and your Instagram.
Yes, and Instagram and Facebook, but I definitely answer my emails.
And what is the next book that people should be expecting?
After Goes Again, quick, I shall figure it out right here. Stop laughing at me. They always laugh at me. After Goes Again, Shadow Dance. Oh yeah, Shadow Dance. I've got Shadow.
And that comes out in what, June?
Shadow Dance is coming out August 22nd. And then Dark Memory comes out October 3rd. And I want you to know that Dark Hunger
Yes.
have my
Yes.
full novel in it. You know, the actual, and they've never done that before. This is going to be a first. So I'm pretty excited about that. I got them to reprint it and put the actual novel in it. So that's going to be fun. And I will be at San Diego Comic-Con to sign it. And I will be also, I think that it will be out when I am at
You will.
in Kentucky at the reader and author thing. I think that's when it first comes out. So,
And of course, readers can also see you in person when you come to our Fresh Fiction event.
yes, I will be at
Readers and readers.
Fiction, and that's November 10th and 12th, right?
Yes, November, the second weekend of November here in the Dallas area.
Yes. And that's, I'm only going to a couple things this year, and I chose that one because I had such a good time. I had such a good time when I went last time. It was so much fun.
And you've already signed all of my books, so you're not going to get writer's cramp this time, at least not because of me.
That was so fun. Here is Shadow Dance cover.
I like that one. Yes.
And I think you'll like the book. It's quite different and fun. So.
Well, Christine, thank you once again for joining us tonight with Fresh Fiction Virtual Book Club. But stick around for our happy hour with our readers and some informal Q&A.
All right. Sounds good. I will do that.